Hey, what's good, everyone? Brody here. Today, I'm going to be walking through my song You Will Always Be a Part of Me, and how I made it. So, for starters, I had the main guitar loop, which starts in the intro. So that part actually, it's a recording of me playing my nylon guitar and also singing some vocals. The majority of it is reversed, and I started off with this is the original loop that I had made and recorded. So yeah, I love that loop. Probably one of my favorite guitar melodies I've written. And honestly, the way this song started originally was just that I liked that loop so much that I just played it repeated and I sang the entirety of the song just on that. Kind of interesting. I've been trying to write in different orders of doing things to see how the outcome changes, because a lot of times I'll make the full beat and then do vocals on it. And this time I just loved how that guitar sounded. Didn't know if I wanted to evolve the song more or not, and didn't want that to get in the way of the creative process of it, like lyrically, conceptually. So I just played that on loop and sang all of the vocals over it. And after I got to that point, I had felt like it was I loved the loop. I loved the feeling of it, but I felt like it was missing something. I wanted a little more of like uniqueness to it. So what I did was, you can see all these tracks here are the individual stems of that loop, and I reversed the majority of them. Some I kept the same, like the vocals I didn't reverse because I loved the melody for that, but I'll solo out the individual parts from there. I'll go to the hook where everything's happening. So I start with this ambience part. I love the tone of it, and I purposely didn't clean up any of the open space because I love the sound of the just like room and me sliding on the fretboard in between. Just sounds really out there and creates a cool mood. I love the melody this created reversed. The part. That's what inspired the hook melody, actually. Because I recorded the verses with just the original guitar loop, and I didn't know what I wanted the hook to be until I reversed it all. And then I heard that. It sold me. I loved it so much. I loved the feeling of it. And I modeled the hook melody of the vocals after that. What else do we have here? I believe this is the vocals. So that part is vocals layered with piano, as you can hear. And the original, I did the loop in a different session, but the original effects were I had used some auto-tune, some pitch shifting, and then after pitching it up an octave, I ran it through halftime. But I automated the halftime on and off, so it would be octave down, then up, then down, then up. And I think this creates this really cool back and forth. That part, I love the vibrato slowed down. It just makes it so slow and wavy. I love it. I take that, and in the verses, I halftime it yet again. I love the emotion of that. It's very like moaning and upset and all. I don't know. I feel like it really helps accentuate the mood of it all. Next layer is the bass. So it is when I recorded the guitar part, I layered just a single note, low note pattern so I could pitch it down an octave and make that the bass line. And I did a cut here because when I reversed everything, it did change the chord progression, which I liked for the most part, except for the ending note. I wanted it to hit that note. So I just chopped that and did a pitch shifter to get that to the note I wanted. Same thing happens here. This is the guitar chords reversed. I love the fret noise on the open spots. I love how the first of every measure there isn't anything. I just think so when I recorded it, the empty space was at the end of the phrase, which I felt was a little more natural, but I loved the anticipation of this, how it doesn't start immediately. Love how that turned out. And similar to the bass line, with me changing the note here, I did take this into Melodyne. And Melodyne's amazing. It's kind of similar to Autotune, but it can be polyphonic. So I loaded the entire guitar chord into Melodyne and took just the low note and brought it up where I needed it to go. It really helped save the day because after I had recorded the main guitar thing, I didn't want to go back and retrack it. I was so in the zone with this. And I don't know, all the weird artifacts and things from changing it digitally, I think adds cool weirdness to it. I think in this song, the main thing that I tried to keep within it is digital artifacts. And so like a lot of the reason people love recording with analog gear is all the imperfections and weirdness that you get without being able to make everything perfect like in a DAW. And I always like flipping that on its head and trying to get that same effect in the digital side instead of the analog side. So like, I don't know, kind of blending something that would be natural and organic with something alien and cold and sterile and digital. And I think that that's a cool space to write in. That's what I've been trying to focus a lot on recently. So here's the whole melody. Honestly, pretty simple. It just kind of keeps this whole thing going through the whole song, cuts in and out certain parts to be bigger or smaller, but it's pretty much just that. I loved that melody so much that I just wanted it to play through. So the other half of the beat is the drums. Honestly, the drums were kind of, I don't want to say an afterthought, but they were the last part that came into the song. And because of that, they're very simple. I had written all of the arrangement of the melody and all of the vocals, and then after that went to programming the drums because I didn't want them to do too much. I wanted them to take a back seat to all that was happening and just kind of keep the momentum going, keep the energy going. I'll show you just the drums here. Then in the hook, or the verse that is, I switch to 808 and I take out the kick drum. Just a little bit softer, it doesn't hit as hard, so you know the hook is the hook. So I start off with, I have a few, yeah, it looks like I used all my drum kit for these actually. Just really distorted, low. Made with the kick. Similar, I really wanted to, how I mentioned how the chords don't start on one, there's like a break before they come in. I wanted to keep that going with the drums as well. So yeah, just keeping the melody. I think this goes for any beat, any song really, but making sure all the different parts have the same goal. So like I knew rhythmically how I liked the melody sounding, so I made the drums follow that. With pretty much the 808 is the main source of rhythm. We have some hi-hats and stuff going on. Just 16th note, little accent hats here. Small like clap happening. Yeah, overall, pretty chill, pretty minimal, but doing exactly what it needs, I think. A big thing I wanted to do also with the drums is relate it to the vocals and the lyrics and all of that. So the song's very bittersweet. It's kind of a mix of trying to be hopeful, like in a bad thing, is essentially. So I wanted to kind of avert expectations. So the first hook comes in all the way. Then the second hook has entirely no drums. And I think that at that point, the listener is kind of waiting for it to hit as hard as it can. So that kind of leaves its like almost disappointment in a way, but not in the sense of being disappointed in the song, but being disappointed in like the outcome. I don't know. I try to tie it to the lyrics and what all is happening. And I think that it leaves you hanging on a good note, leaves you wanting more there, which the outro then hits with the drums, but it's also without the vocals. So I thought, I don't know, kind of leave you hanging, leave some what ifs, and then a little bit of hope and energy at the very end of the song. Also love the outro because this is the only point where the vocal lead in the hook plays and isn't covered by my singing. Right here. My favorite part. So yeah, essentially that's the beat. Pretty much, like I mentioned, it's all symbolic. Every decision that I made, I tried to tie it to the lyrics as much as possible, which is another reason why I loved writing in the order that I did, because having all of the vocals and the story there before the beat was finished really allowed me, I think, to tie it in as much as I can and make sure the message is hitting as hard as possible. So yeah, that is the beat part of it. And then from there on, we go to the vocals. And a fun thing with the vocals was that all of the vocals tracks, as you can see, it's all one layer. Usually in my songs, I have a ton of different layers. I'm always stacking harmonies and doubles and whatnot. But it's all one take, aside from parts where it had slight overlaps, I would punch in there. But everything that I tracked was the first time that I had tracked, and there wasn't any there weren't any like overdub sessions for this one. I originally was going to. That's kind of always how I do vocals. I try to do it in a very traditional sense, but this song kind of hit me hard. The lyrics of it and the message really mean a lot to me, and I felt that the vocals really had an emotion to it in the first pass through of it, which was just like my writing take, like just figuring out the lyrics and melody and all. And I loved that so much, so I decided to stick with just the first pass of vocals and don't add anything else to it in terms of layering, just because I wanted the core feeling and emotion of it to be there instead of having it be diluted after trying to make the takes perfect. So what I did, kind of to fix the imperfections of it and kind of to accentuate it and make it more emotional, was the vocal chain on it. So I'll play through a little bit. Try to keep looking at the bright side. Since you under my eyes, I met you in the wrong time. But I can't stop so sublime. Struggle with sacrifice. So yeah, I think that what it lacks in layers and traditionally good takes, it makes up for it in a unique vocal tone, and I think that keeps it interesting. And I just love how it sounds, honestly. I know the pitched up vocals aren't anything new, but I think that the way that I did it was interesting and kind of added more to the song. I'll show you. There's different sections here. I kind of blocked it off with the different sounds of it. Try to keep looking at the bright side. So verse 1, very dry, very upfront. It hits the hook with the drum, so the biggest part of the song. You will always be a part of me. And it's bigger, there's reverb, it's a little more upfront. Never wanna see you hurt again. And then for the rest, kind of a middle ground. Bigger than the intro, but smaller than this. And yeah, all of these are doing the same. So I'll break down kind of what's happening. My vocal chain here is a lot different than normal. I kind of went against the grain of how like a normal signal chain would go to add some cool sounds to it. So firstly, I'll show you from the hook vocals because that's where everything is happening. So we have, obviously to start, just auto-tune, just fully like fast retune speed auto-tune. And then I have little alter boy for my pitch shifting. I just have it up an octave, no formant changing. And we have, you will always be a part of me. Pretty simple there. And adding to that, we have a compressor, 1176, just kind of never want to see you hurt again. Just kind of taming the dynamics there. I have a de-esser. You will always be a part of me. Catching the S sounds, leveling it out. Because this is such a weird vocal tone, there's a lot of harshness in it, and I wanted to cut that out. I'm using the micro shift plugin to widen the sound. I wanted it, especially because it's just one vocal, I wanted it to be bigger and wider. So whereas you would normally do like a vocal double left and right, this kind of hits that. And also adds some weird chorus artifacts and phasing to it, which I think just is kind of a weird sound that makes it cool. I put reverb on afterwards. Normally I would put my reverb on a bus at the end, but I'm kind of using this more as part of the tone than as an echo, and you'll see what I mean as we go on. So I threw it on the chain because I wanted these next plugins to affect it. I got an EQ, just taming some frequencies. I have another compressor, a Joey Sturgis gain reduction. And now I purposely put this compressor after microshift and the reverb because those are what's making the vocal wider. And I figured putting a compressor after the fact of that would really bring out that wideness and make it more wide, and also kind of make it flutter a bit, where sometimes there might be on a louder section like it hits the reverb more, hits the doubling more, and becomes more apparent on the sides. This like really exaggerates it and kind of makes it, like I said, flutter back and forth. You will always be a part of me. So you can kind of hear how it hits, like specifically like in the right ear it points, and the left ear it kind of pulls you there. Also, it really accentuates the noise floor. There's a TV going on in the next room, a water fountain going, people talking, all kinds of background noise that I left in just because I loved how it sounded. You will always be a part of me. I never want to see you hurt again. And you can definitely hear it in the song and the recording, but I liked it. I think it really put the song in a place, really made it more intimate, added to the mood of it. And after that, we have just more EQ, cutting out some things. I use Soothe 2, which if you're on my Patreon, I haven't decided if this is going on YouTube or Patreon, but if you're on my Patreon, you know that I love the Soothe 2 plugin. I mention it all the time in my vocals and my guitar recordings and my hi-hats, anything that's harsh. This really like tames resonant frequencies and makes things more flat, I guess. And in this, and I've also mentioned that I love the kind of distortion that comes from pushing it harder than it's meant to be pushed. And I kind of do that in this situation. So without it, Never wanna see you hurt again. And then with it, never wanna see you hurt again. It's really soft now. It very like, I don't know, it makes it like kind of warm and comforting. It puts it back in the mix. It's less upfront and aggressive and just like soft. And I think that pushing it the level that I did, it kind of also messes with the reverb and the micro shift and all of that, and just again, just more artifacts, more motion happening within the mix. Then just some EQs I have to even everything out. And then we get this. So kind of backfired in the mix, more felt. Following that, in my main bus out for all of my vocals, just some EQ that I decided after the fact to fit it more in the mix, and some more de-essing, just to make it as soft as possible. I'm not going to go super into the specifics of the mix, just because it's a weird mix vocally, more just showing like the broad strokes of like the flavor, like why I got the tonal choices that I did. But yeah, I feel like that effect really added to the emotion and like the longingness of the song, if that makes sense. I feel funny using words to describe this song. I think beats are easier because it's more abstract, but when it's a song that I wrote recently, it means a lot to me and all. It's funny like dissecting the emotion behind it, but I think that's important, and I think that's something that isn't talked about too much when it comes to writing music. So I want to be as transparent as I can about how basically I had a message in the lyrics, and literally every decision while making the song is supporting that message. I think sometimes people can get trapped into doing what makes the most sense traditionally in the mix or technically, being like, oh, the kick has to sound like this. The snare has to be this volume compared to the kick. The guitar has to do this, all kinds of rules and whatnot. And I think that while all of those guidelines are important as guidelines, they're not meant to be strict. And that those should be used to support the most important thing, which is the song and the message. And should take a backseat to making that delivery be as powerful as possible. So yeah, that's, I think in a nutshell, what this song is, how it came to be, my mindset while I made it. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. All the support really goes a long way. Hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed this song. If you want more videos like this, if you want to learn more about my thought process with music and how I do what I do, subscribe to my Patreon if you don't, if this isn't on here. And yeah, appreciate it so much. Let me know in the comments if there's anything you want to see me talk about, any specific song, any specific like topic, any type of beat, type of song, whatever. Just let me know, and I want to be as helpful to y'all as I can. Cool. Thank you so much. Peace out.